Welcome to Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein, and here we take the things so many of us are experiencing as parents right to the experts for advice. Today, we are diving into a topic that is all over social media, skincare for teens and tweens. Whether your teen or tween is deep into skincare trends, or you're just looking for a simple routine to get them started, or maybe you're helping them navigate acne. This episode is for you. Plus, we also have pro tips for our own skincare routine. Check it out. Holly, I'm so glad you're here because, skincare is something we can all relate to. We all want to have great skin, right? It affects all of us. But how did you become so passionate about skincare? And why should we all care about taking good care of our skin?
Absolutely. The skin is an organ, which people forget. It's actually the largest organ in our body, and it's the most visible. If there's something wrong with our heart or our kidneys, those are things we need to address, but they're not something that somebody, at the grocery store or on the street would necessarily see what's going on. But when something's going on with the skin, that can affect not just that organ, but also our mental health and how we feel about ourselves. So being able to fix that and make people feel better in that way really spoke to me.
It is sort of a window into what's happening inside your body, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of internal diseases can present themselves in the skin. Treating those has to be part of the holistic approach. So yes, I can give you something that fixes that visible illness that you have, but oftentimes we're then finding things going on inside that need to be addressed as well.
When it comes to, us as parents, and you're a parent yourself, your oldest is 8, so maybe not quite getting into the skincare routine, but I don't know. Like, at what age should we start thinking about incorporating skincare into our children's daily routine? And I'm sure it looks different based on age.
Absolutely. And I think it different based on age, based on the child, what their activity levels are, boy, girl, that it all comes into play. If your child is exhibiting interest in taking care of their skin, I think that's a good time to start to really talk about basic, great skincare. We talk about hygiene and brushing our teeth, washing our face, especially in those tween years when the oil glands, those sebaceous glands start to kick in. That's a great time when they're active. If they're playing a lot of sports and they're sweaty, we can say, okay, well, we take care of our bodies. We want to make sure we don't have germs and bacteria, and we use a special soap just like we do for our hands. So just those simple talks when they start to show interest. And then as they get older, if they are starting to show symptoms that are bothering them, then we can get more into over-the-counter medications or prescription medications.
Right. So, sort of drilling down into treatment. It strikes me as it's those preteen years, right? When you really start to see the skin change. So what should skincare look like when we get into those, you see a pimple pop up, or maybe they're a little more oily? Like, what are the things to look for? And then what should that routine look like?
Yeah, I stress keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple.
There are obviously a lot of things out there that kids have access to now that we didn't 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so they're bombarded with lots of things, and they're cutely packaged and they're fun and they smell pretty. But really, if you're starting to see some of those preteen things, the best thing is to start with a simple skincare routine, 3 steps. Wash the face with a great cleanser. Use a moisturizer because we want to replace. The skin doesn't like to be dry, so we want to give it good moisture that's not going to clog the pores, and then sunscreen.
Well, let's
for everybody
get into sunscreen. But you alluded to these viral skincare routines that it seems like preteens have really latched onto. I saw this video with this. It's like she's 10 years old and has this, like elaborate bedtime routine.
More than mine.
Yeah. Way more than I have ever done, though, it makes me think, well, boy, I'm really off mark here. What is your take on these viral skincare routines? And I mean, the young 10, 11, 12 are really buying into that.
So I've been in dermatology for 15 years. I've really only been seeing it these past 5 years or so. It just the access. It's young children's skin is not the same. And a lot of these harsh products that are really marketed to our skin.
Sure.
So more mature skin, fine lines, the sun damage that we've had are just too harsh for them. And so it can have kind of a rebound effect or an opposite effect and make a lot of these conditions worse or cause problems that weren't there. Contact dermatitis, irritation.
Yeah.
So
there could be, I mean, a couple of things come to mind. Are they generally safe to you? I mean, I know they're not ideal to use, but if you do have a 10, 11, 12-year-old who has a better Sephora haul than you do, are they generally safe but could cause some of the contact dermatitis that you're talking about? Or should we just try to get the kids out of this space altogether?
we should. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
getting into a whole opinion.
Right.
But
well,
I think
you're trained in it.
Yeah. It's one, it's too much for their
Mhm.
skin. Some children may be able to get away with it, but it's causing changes in the pH of the skin, the normal flora of the skin.
So long-term consequences potentially.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing, I worry about the psychosocial aspect of it too. Is this too much? Are we giving these children too many things to think about and worry about? And one more thing.
Well, right. One more thing, but it is, these videos are promoting this idea of perfect skin.
Yeah, the glass skin
Yes.
look. Yes.
I mean, really, is there ever a perfect skin? And you're just
not
to your
achievable.
point,
So
it's not achievable. And the thing is too, you think about kids on social media, and if you scroll, you stay on a video for long enough, then the algorithm is like, oh, you like this, and suddenly that's all you're seeing.
Exactly.
Are these videos of these, people with quote unquote perfect skin. I also think about just the expense of it all. I mean,
it's not accessible for everybody.
I saw this story there where a mom was saying that their daughter, and she put the asterisk on it, like she's spending her own money and using gift cards, but she spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars in this particular case, it was Sephora, but it could be, at any given place.
Yeah.
Do you need to spend that much to get good products?
No. And that's the other thing with social media, right? That people are making money off of this.
Yeah.
It's glossy, it's pretty, it's exciting. And it's really not achievable.
Yeah.
And so it's more kind of finding the best routine for your skin and not what this one person that happens to be reaching a lot of people is telling you. And they're probably not even doing it either. There's filters and it's not achievable.
Yeah.
And seeing somebody in real life, seeing your pediatrician or dermatologist that's looking at your skin and can make recommendations for you is much more important. And also that you don't need to spend a lot of money.
Well, that's the key. So when we are just going with our, preteen or teenager to the store, what are some of the things that we should be looking for? And what are some things that we should try to avoid if say you're reading the ingredients?
Yeah. So as far as things to avoid, especially at that age, retinol is a
good for us.
Great for us. Yep.
Not for kids.
Our skin cells are in need of it. But it's a medication for fine lines, fine, wrinkles, but can over dry the skin and actually make acne a little bit worse. Because the skin doesn't like to be dry. Skin cells are over 60% water. And so if we're drying them out, it's causing those oil glands that are starting to kick in our preteens to really start to overwork. And that oil is what feeds the bacteria that causes acne. So not stripping the skin and using gentle products, things with ceramides, which are found in a lot of good moisturizers. Niacinamides, those are anti-inflammatory ingredients found in moisturizers that aren't going to be irritating. Gentle cleansers. I don't know if we want to talk about products.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. If you have something that you think is better than, one or the other.
Yeah, you don't have to.
What would you tell a patient?
You don't have to spend $40, $50 for a cleanser,
right?
Or upwards, even more. You can find these products at Target, at Walgreens, and some gentle cleansers I really like are CeraVe. Easy to find. They make a couple different versions. So if you have oily skin or dry and sensitive skin, um, there's different products within that line. Neutrogena makes wonderful products. Cetaphil, that's been around since we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all wonderful. They're going to do the job. And the job is just cleaning the dirt, the oil, the sweat, if they're getting into makeup, getting that off the skin to keep the pores open and not clogged.
One thing you brought up is just making sure the cleanser matches your skin type. For kids, like what's a good way to test what your skin type is? And that's good for adults too. Like, or as parents, just curious, like, how can you tell? Because it's more normal to dry to combination to oily. Like, wait, what
am I?
Where am I? Yeah.
I mean, a good test and what a lot of kids will say is like, oh, I wash my face in the morning and by lunchtime I feel, I can wipe the oil off of it. So if you're washing your face and within a couple of hours you're noticing your skin is already feeling greasy or oily or shiny, you probably have oily skin. If you're washing your face and it gets tight and feels dry without right after you wash, then that's going to be someone more that has oily skin. You may feel tingling or burning when you put moisturizer on. And you can have combination. So the T-zone that we talk about, the forehead and the nose, those have more oil glands. So a lot of patients will be drier here and then have the oiliness here. So a good, normal moisturizer like CeraVe is great for patients that are oily. The Neutrogena Hydra Boost is really great. It's more of a gel moisturizer, so it doesn't feel as greasy. And then for my teen boys or preteen boys, they don't necessarily like that shiny, dewy effect. So there are a couple matte or mattifying moisturizers out there. Cetaphil Derma Control has kind of a mattifying effect, as well as La Roche-Posay, which is another great line. They have a matte moisturizer that gives the skin the moisture it needs without that dewy.
Which bring on the dewiness,
I know.
if you ask me. What about for like a morning moisturizer versus a nighttime moisturizer? Is that something kids or teens, preteens need to think about, or is that really more for when you get into your adult years?
So yes and no. Some of the night heavy creams that you may be thinking of that are for us, those have your retinols and some of those anti-aging products. But as far as night and day, the only thing that I tell my younger patients is you want your night moisturizer your morning moisturizer to have an SPF in it, and your night one you can get without. And a lot of product lines out there have an AM and a PM, so it'll be the same exact ingredients, the same exact moisturizer with just the addition of the sunscreen in the morning. So you can know, okay, these products aren't gonna break me out.
Right, this works for me.
It works together.
I also think too, like as we are going into the winter season, I hate to rush it, but it'll be here before you know it, and your skin changes. So
absolutely,
how should our kids' routines change as the seasons change?
Definitely don't skimp on the sunscreen. So even though you're not going to be at the beach or the pool, you're probably still spending time outside.
Yeah.
Mainers, we do a lot, even if it's snowy. So you don't want to skimp on the sunscreen, but you may want to switch from a lotion to a cream, so something that's a little bit heavier. Some moisturizers have hyaluronic acid in them, which is an ingredient that can help draw moisture or water to the cells. So that's another good addition to look for. And you may need more frequency. So some teens, if they're using acne type products, they may need to moisturize throughout the day. So they may need to put it in their bag or their locker.
Speaking of acne, obviously that is a big concern for kids, particularly in their teenage years. What are the things that, as parents, we can do to help, sort of navigate that, keep that under control? What are the products that seem to work? And when is there a trigger point where it's like, we need professional help. We need to see a dermatologist.
Yeah, there's a lot of great products that you can get started with. So if you have that preteen that's starting to get just a couple pimples and maybe doesn't need a harsher product, over-the-counter products with salicylic acid are great. So you can get the spot treatments. Kids love those little patches. Some of those will have salicylic acid in them as well. So starting with, switching their gentle cleanser to a salicylic acid cleanser can be a good starting point for that mild acne. And then if you're getting some more inflammatory ones, you're noticing more red, a little bit bigger pimples, benzoyl peroxide is another over-the-counter ingredient that can be found in some spot gels or cleansers. With benzoyl peroxide, you want to look for percentages between 2.5% to 5%. Anything more than that can be pretty drying, especially for our climate here when it gets dry. And then the other over-the-counter ingredient that just became available in a non-prescription form not too long ago is adapalene. And there's a couple of products that carry that, the La Roche-Posay Epiclear, as well as Differin gel. And that works similar to some of our stronger prescription retinoids. That helps your teenager who's starting to feel a little oily. You're noticing more blackheads, and those come in some topical cream forms.
Okay. Those are some good things to look out for. And I do like, a lot of the teens, mine in particular, and even my middle school son, they're out like with sports in particular, they are sweaty. They are very sweaty. So is there a different type of skin routine that they should be using post workout?
Yeah, the wipes are great.
Oh, just like the regular makeup kind of.
So not the makeup ones. So Sephora makes the makeup ones, or there's the Neutrogena makeup ones. Cetaphil makes a great fragrance-free, just cleanser wipe.
Okay.
When they're out on a field or they're on a bus, they don't have access to soap and water.
So you want to get it off as soon as possible.
Yeah. Throw it in their bags. They come in these individual wipes, or almost like a little baby wipe pack. And male, female, they all like them because it doesn't have a scent. And just getting the oil off immediately is great. It shouldn't take the place of washing. Because I have some kids where they're like, oh yeah, use the wipes. You still want to use soap and water when you get home as part of a routine, but I really do like the wipes.
That is pro tip right there, because that absolutely could just throw it in their bag, and just the key is getting them in the routine of doing it.
It is.
You know what strikes me, and this has been a common theme in my house. Teenagers, I've talked about. I have a 16-year-old. They track UV, and not in the way that you and I probably track UV, and that like, oh, it's going to be a real hot day, everybody slather on the sunscreen. They're tracking UV as like, oh, great day to go get a tan. Have you seen this? And please tell me the magic words to switch that mindset. And I say that knowing that like when I was that age, I was sun-soaked. I didn't have the UV index in the palm of my hand all the time like the kids do with their phones. But it is we're constantly saying, where's your sunscreen? Put on your sunscreen. Where's your And meanwhile, they're like, ooh, UV index 9.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's not good.
I do feel like kids are more aware, which is great. And I see a lot less of the tanning beds and things like that. But the way I now go about it with my teen patients is because you're not going to, unfortunately, you're not going to scare kids with, you're going to have skin cancer one day and I'm going to be cutting things out and you're going to have scars. I'm like, a tan is cute for about 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
It's a small window.
Very, very small.
And then my patients, when they get to their late 20s, early 30s, they start to realize, okay, I'm seeing the sun damage. So I go more on the vanity side than the skin cancer side. Not like, oh, look, grandma just had Mohs surgery.
Yeah.
You don't do this. They can't look that far ahead.
Right.
But you can say, okay, well, look at this person. They haven't taken care of their skin. And now they have all these brown spots and their wrinkles. And that tends to get them a little more than the...
Well, I feel like we've tried it. And there have been many days. It's like she comes home from the beach or just, out at the ocean or whatever they're doing. And right under her eyes are red. And I am telling you, it kills me every single time, But
all the
She's
hard work
oh
it
my
takes to
gosh.
get rid
Oh
of all
my gosh.
that.
But you mentioned the vanity part. So much of the way your skin looks is tied to self-esteem, you know?
Oh, 100%.
And so like how do we help kids who may be feeling, kind of down because their skin just doesn't look what they see on Instagrams and TikTok and all of
And
that.
and when kids have tried a lot of the over-the-counter products
Yes.
and things just aren't
Yes.
working, it's okay to seek help.
Yeah.
We have lots of resources out there. I mean, a lot of pediatricians are great, but dermatology can give patients the medications they need. And there are wonderful medications out there. I think some parents are like, I had acne, I lived through it.
Yeah.
But you lived through it 20, 30 years ago when there
Yeah.
wasn't social media and there wasn't all of this, perfectionism that they're
I got the
seeing.
chills. Yes, because
Yeah.
and even just, being on Zoom call, like you're
Yes.
constantly looking at your face.
Yeah.
Where
Very closely.
even like on FaceTime and all the different Snapchat and all the things they do, you're constantly looking at your face in a way that we definitely never did that. So you're right that that's good perspective. It was way different.
It was different. And so, I'm sometimes convincing parents to treat their kids
Yeah.
because it's you can have this kid that comes in, hair down and very, feeling sad about themselves. And we start treatments and, 3, 4 months later, they're cutting their hair and pulling it out of
Oh.
their face. And so the parents aren't seeing that. They're saying, well, they're going to live through it.
Yeah.
Yes, but our mental, emotional health, we know more about it now. We know that it's at an all-time low for our teens.
Anxiety.
And
Sure.
the medications are very safe. And under the direction of a dermatology provider, we're doing everything we can to keep it safe, to monitor children, and really help their skin, but help their mental, emotional, and prevent scarring. So prevent those
Yeah.
long-term side effects from acne.
I got the chills just thinking about that too. And, we've talked a lot about the kids, but what about for us parents? Like, what are the things we should be doing? Maybe this is, listening to this conversation should be a reset for us.
Yeah.
So like, what is a good baseline routine just for us as parents? And then maybe what's an elevated next step?
For skincare?
Yeah.
Yeah. My same thing applies for adults.
Mm-hmm.
We wash our bodies, we brush our teeth. Our face is different than the rest of our skin. So a gentle cleanser devoted to the face. Show your kids you're putting on a sunscreen and you're taking care of your face. But for basic cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen for everyone. If you're concerned about some of those things you didn't take care of in your younger years, like some brown spots because you didn't use sunscreen. Vitamin C is a wonderful over-the-counter product that you can find in a lot of serums or moisturizers. Most people can tolerate that pretty well.
Is there a certain percentage that it should be?
It depends. I mean, there's some upwards of 30 that may be too drying for some people.
Start small. Yeah, that makes sense.
15, 20%, and then you can increase.
So vitamin C is a good one. We hear a lot about retinol today.
Yeah.
Is that a good one to incorporate?
Retinol is great. It can be drying, so I like to use it as a separate product than the moisturizers that kind of have it all in one. So you can decide, maybe it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday routine for you, or you can increase it as you can tolerate it. And that's a prescription. So tretinoin comes in a really low percentage as an anti-aging. In the higher percentages, we use it for acne prescriptions. And adding that helps increase cell turnover because as we get older, those skin cells are not turning over as rapidly as they did when we were a teen.
I've noticed. Thank you for bringing that up.
So increasing that, it can also help lift some of the discoloration. It helps stave off some of the fine lines. So.
If there was one takeaway for us as parents when it comes to helping our kids navigate this, what would that be? Or you could have multiple
Yeah.
takeaways if it's not just one, because we talked a lot, but
Just, you know, guiding your kids, let them be heard.
mm,
If they're saying that they're feeling bad about their skin, acknowledge it. It is an organ. It's not just a superficial or vanity. There are things that can be done about it, and not just brushing it off. If you've tried some of the over-the-counter things and kept it really simple, making them an appointment, getting them in, and then they're seen, they're heard, and then they're given a good routine, so they start to feel better
well,
about
being seen
themselves.
and heard is so
Yes.
important for so many things.
Yeah.
Holly, thank you so much. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate the insight. And of course, for more information, we will have that on our website, wgme.com/raisingme. Holly, a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, when I saw that story about the tweens spending hundreds of dollars on skincare, I was like, well, one, yikes, that's crazy. And two, I'm so glad my daughter, who's now 17, kind of seems to have missed getting deep into that movement with needing to have all the crazy, fancy skincare. So my first takeaway, keep it simple, right? We and our kids, we are surrounded by skincare products that promise miracles, but routines really don't need to be that complicated. As Holly recommends, just start with the basics. Gentle cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen. That's kind of it, right? As she said, a lot of that viral stuff really is meant for adults, like especially retinol or the harsh exfoliants, and can actually damage young skin. So really just no need to splurge on fancy products for tweens and teens. Just keep it simple and gentle. That's a great place to start. That's it. The second takeaway was on acne. So if your teen or your tween is starting to get breakouts, Holly said to start with the over-the-counter stuff that really can work, the salicylic acid or the benzoyl peroxide or the adapalene, highly effective. But really just that patience is key with this. Results, they can take a lot of time, and it's okay to seek professional help if things don't improve. And I just really had sort of an eye-opening moment. That whole idea of, well, I survived acne, my kids will survive it too. Eye-opening moment there with Holly, because, we know things were so much different. Kids are constantly looking at their faces now, social media, FaceTime, Zoom calls, whatever it might be. We also know so much more about mental health and self-esteem. So it really just shouldn't have to be something that kids suffer through and endure, especially if we can avoid it. Last but not least, what about us, right? Holly reminded us that the basic routine applies to us too. Cleanser, moisturizer, always sunscreen. And if those brown spots are starting to pop up, adding vitamin C serum or a retinol can really work wonders. Just got to start slow, as she said. Bottom line, no need to get caught up in those latest viral trends or the crazy expensive products. Stick to simple to start. Thank you so much for listening to Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein. This episode is edited by Megan Littlefield and produced with Nate Eldridge. Please follow Raising Me wherever you get your podcast. And of course, we'd love a positive rating and review. It helps others to find this message as well. Wherever you are, I hope you learned something new and get to take a little time for you.